Original post, June 25, 2024. So I'm writing this because my college plans were approved as of Sunday, June 16th. I'll be graduating this week, and my ceremony is later this week. However, my church announced that they'll be doing their own graduation ceremony on July 7th, where they'll have church graduates walk down the aisle of the sanctuary during service to be recognized and receive prayer, and the pastor announced it on the 16th. According to my parents, he said it was important to make sure the next generation rooted their future in God, and the church will be having a barbecue after service in honor of the graduates. However, I haven't attended church since I was 16 due to an incident I'll explain later, but my parents seem hell-bent on making sure I attend not just the church graduation but church from now on too, and they added strings to prior agreements that were never attached. Before the church graduation was announced, my parents agreed to split tuition with me to attend a community college upon me finding a job this summer. I plan to transfer afterward to finish my bachelor's. However, after the announcement, my parents said they weren't going to attend my graduation and that I wasn't allowed to either, a complete 180 out of nowhere. We even invited relatives to attend from out of state, but my parents already told them to attend the church graduation instead, and I feel like they pulled the rug from under me. When I said I still plan to attend my high school graduation with friends, they threatened to rescind their offer to pay for college if I went and didn't come to the church one, and I just feel blindsided by this. When I tried to explain how they changed their mind out of nowhere, they said that the pastor talked about how people lost their way in college by disregarding faith and morals, so they weren't going to pay for me to go and change because of worldly influences. But when I said that I would pay for tuition myself, without them if I find a job, while still attending the high school graduation, they said they'd charge me rent starting in July, which is unfair because I'm yet to find a job. I've been applying like crazy the past few weeks, and I have a few interviews lined up too. They're just trying to make me return to church, after I stopped attending 2 years ago, and I've been really frustrated with their flip-flop. They said they were doing this because they made mistakes in college before later finding God, and they didn't want me to make the same ones too. The last thing I'll add is this. I was bullied in that church in the past, and I reached my breaking point 2 years ago. The youth had a camp out on the grass behind the church where I was hazed by this really annoying girl, and no one did anything, including the chaperone in our tent. There were stupid pranks that were made in good fun, but the most hurtful thing was when that one girl made jokes about my body weight when we were changing that really hurt, and our tent chaperone didn't do anything when I told her afterward, because she wasn't in there as we changed. This is just one of many things with this girl during youth group when leaders weren't looking, but that was the most hurtful. However, to my surprise, my parents took my side and didn't make me attend youth group after that, and they let me stop attending for the most part to my surprise. I miss how they were reasonable in the past and hope that they can be reasonable again with me here. Most of my relatives are also churchgoers and have agreed to attend the church graduation instead, and I just need advice because it all happened so fast, and it especially hurts that they don't want to attend my high school graduation. My friends are in high school, and I don't consider anyone in our church's youth group to be my friend, so of course I want to graduate with my friends, but I can't pay rent. Edit, just a few things I want to clear up. 1. I'm scared of them taking stuff out of my room and putting them outside if they see me attend the high school graduation because they know when it is, and I'm afraid to come back and they won't let me in if they're that far into their nonsense. For that reason, I'm weighing the risk of attending even if it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. We don't have a lease, and I'm going to see if a friend's parents can home me in case and even help me find legal advice, but I'm willing to skip my high school graduation if it helps me long-term and I'm unable to find temporary stay with a friend. I'll also talk to my non-church-going relatives because I don't want anyone relaying anything to my parents, and that includes my older sister who's moved out but still attends church and is close with my parents' opinions on religion and politics. 2. The pastor didn't schedule the church graduation on a conflicting day with my or anyone's high school graduation. The church graduation will take place on a Sunday during service where graduates will walk down the aisle to receive prayer followed by a church-wide barbecue in the back of the church afterward in honor of the graduates. My parents made the BS of forcing me to only attend the church graduation instead of my high school one. The pastor never said that. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I can't speak for OP's parents' church, but ceremonies like these are super common and absolutely not intended to replace graduation. The graduates are invited to attend in their cap and gown from their actual ceremony, and it's meant to put them in front of the community as a whole as almost a coming-of-age thing to recognize them as adults and invite the church community to pray over them for their future. Many who own businesses or work in management will offer an internship, job, mentoring, or a reference if they are personally familiar with them. So it's a way to say, hey, these guys are starting their journey to adulthood. Anyone who feels led to help support them through networking or whatever, here is our next generation. OP, I will definitely look into a trade, but they said that they'll charge me rent in July if I attend my high school graduation and my church one, so it's the church one by itself or nothing along with attending church afterward. Comment 2, it would be a shame if your parents missed your high school graduation. It's recognition of the work you did in school and has nothing to do with the church. Can you try talking to them again explaining how important their presence is to you? Maybe do both graduations if they come to both. OP, I'm still leaning towards going because my friends will be there and it's once in a lifetime, but I'm scared of their sudden threat to charge rent in July and not knowing how much or how soon I'll have a job after to pay for it. Like, what if they can throw me out, and who knows how much they'll charge, and I've been applying for jobs like crazy the past few weeks before they pulled this nonsense, but that's no guarantee I'll get something by next month. Update 1, July 20th, 2024. I was unable to update sooner due to my phone being taken away, but I'll explain why. A few people suggested reaching out to some non-religious relatives to see if they could help or even provide shelter if they tried to throw me out, and I decided on my aunt after having no success with friends. I told some friends first about everything my parents threatened. But long story short, they talked to their parents who were unable to take me in, and they said it was last minute or mostly busy with their own graduations too. I then tried my aunt and told her everything too, and she said I could stay with her soon, but not in time for my high school graduation because it was really short notice. She said I could at some point this summer, and she wasn't initially coming to my graduation because she lives on the other side of the country. But she said she would try to talk some sense into my parents, and that led to my phone being removed. My parents didn't like that I'd told her because it was none of her business according to them. I don't know what was said on the call, and they threatened to turn off my phone plan unless I gave them my phone. And I caved when they were yelling at me and gave it to them, along with my laptop they wanted too, because they threatened to kick me out sooner than July for talking about them to my aunt because she could tell others. They also said that they'd put my stuff outside while I was at the high school graduation if I attended. So they would kick me out that night instead of their original threat to start charging me rent in July. So for those reasons plus another I'll say in a moment, I decided not to attend my high school graduation because I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. I was already having anxiety about what they'd do to my stuff while there, and I didn't want to be homeless when I returned. I also had a loss of motivation to do other things leading up to it, hobbies like sports, hanging out, or even watching TV. I knew I wouldn't enjoy it because I was already dreading it before it happened, and my anxiety there would be worse than the lead up. I also didn't want to wear a smile the whole time with none of my family in attendance either, and I didn't think I could hide it emotionally either. I also decided to attend the church graduation to get it over with, and I rationalized it like I did with other things growing up. I was forced to go to youth group and kids choir growing up, and I was forced to be baptized too. This was no different, just 5 minutes of the pastor calling all graduates on stage to pray for them, and they didn't even give us a gift like on Mother's Day. All my life, I've had to suck up things I hated at church, and the church graduation was less tedious than the pre-baptism classes because it was only 5 minutes on stage compared to 3 weeks of baptism classes. Some relatives came, gave me money from cards, and we ate lunch at a restaurant afterward, something we did when my dad was elected to a church position years ago, and invited friends to see him get installed before lunch afterward. I'm pretty used to the song and dance, and this was easier and shorter than other church BS. My parents also returned my phone after the church graduation, and a lot of my anxiety lessened when I decided to skip my graduation. Don't get me wrong, I'll always hate them for it, and I'm no longer accepting their help for college either. I'm going to find a job, hopefully 2 if part-time, and try to move out over the summer if I can, and I won't talk to them again afterward. Because of their stress, I decided to skip a once-in-a-lifetime event to prioritize my mental health because I wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway with the stress. And the fact that they're happy with me for obeying should allow me to find jobs without additional stress. They also withdrew their July rent threat, and everything's been peaceful since the church graduation, although I'll never forgive them for what they tried to do. I also expect them to threaten me with something else in the future too, so I hope to move out as soon as possible, even if it means staying with my aunt until finding a job. I'm glad she said I could stay with her, and hopefully the time until I do remains peaceful. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm so sorry for you. Hang in there and wait it out until you can get to your aunt. This is not normal, and I hope you find peace, stability, and support. Comment 2. You made it this far, keep up the facade until you're out of their clutches. You'll have many more graduations and life milestones, High school graduation is a blip and I don't even remember it at 37. Remember to have your money in a bank they don't know about and not in a joint account. Keep the Reddit and social media super hidden so they don't discover you. Get your passport, social, and birth certificate too. Comment 3, you handled this the best you could. Get your ducks in a row and leave. I would recommend a community college for your associate's degree that will transfer directly to your state college. Verify with both the guidance department and admissions at the state college that all your community college credits will transfer. There are times they don't. Another option is trade schools. You can be out in the workforce in about 1 year, making good money. Your parents don't realize the damage they've done to your relationship. They are cult members and are unwilling to compromise. Go be your best self and conquer your dreams. OP, I'm still trying to get past how they refused to attend my high school graduation. Like, the church graduation was during service on a Sunday, and it didn't conflict at all. But they changed so quickly on how public school is worldly, and the government took God out of school, nonsense that has nothing to do with my high school graduation that they paid for, so they could have attended both as I offered, but then they threatened me to only attend the church or have my stuff be put outside. Story 2, my husband won't let me leave my church. Original post, August 23, 2022. I was raised and grew up in a very conservative, very religious, household and community. It was to the point where everything and everyone's purpose was to serve our religion and our community. I met my husband there, another devout believer like me. We dated, which mostly consisted of attending prayer services together, until we finished school, and then we immediately married. I became a school teacher, and his work required occasional travel, but we made a happy life together, never really leaving the confines of our community. A little over a year ago that was all turned upside down. My husband was offered a very high-paying job in the suburbs of a fairly major city. It would require him to travel a bit more, but we'd be substantially better off. We talked about it and decided to do it, especially since there was also an opening at a school in the area where we were moving. So we set it all up. He took the job, we bought a new house, and I was hired to teach at this new school. Once I started working there, I was hit with quite a bit of culture shock. All sorts of new ideas, people, and beliefs were coming at me quicker than I really had time to process. It was very overwhelming at first, especially since I'd rarely ever had to deal with someone outside of our religion. So to shorten this up a little and get to my point, eventually I started to come around to question some of the things I'd been taught and I'd believed all growing up. Specifically, I met a male colleague who was just very different. He was charming, confident, witty, intelligent, and honestly attractive, and he believed none of what I did. We had amazing discussions and debates during our shared lunch together. I realized eventually that I wasn't really sure how much of what I believed. I wasn't sure if I'd ever really thought hard about it, and now that I was questioning. I found myself talking about subjects I'd never talked about, laughing at jokes that would have horrified previous me, but I also found myself happier than I was, even though I had thought I was happy. All of this was, of course, without my husband's knowledge. He was, and always will be a true believer. Recently, it's made me think less of him, both intellectually and physically. On top of that, I think I also have feelings for my co-worker. To sum it all up, I'm not really sure if my husband and I have anything in common beyond our religion, and meeting someone new has opened my eyes to that and to perhaps my being a different person than I thought I was even, and I'm not sure what to do at all. Update 1, September 15, 2022. We haven't been fighting about our differences, but I've been questioning my faith and unhappy with our marriage and my religious beliefs for some time. When I first went to him to try to work through these issues, he suggested I have a Zoom meeting with our pastor. I felt shamed and coerced into abandoning all the questions, concerns, and doubts I was having. I went to talk to my husband one more time before I made my decision. I asked him what he would think if hypothetically I still was unsure about our religion and the dynamics of our marriage. His response was something I'd been fearing in the back of my mind. He said he had been worried ever since we moved that I might not be able to handle living away from our families and our community. He also said that he'd been missing his own family anyway, and that at the end of the semester, he wanted us to move back home. Once we were back home, he said we'd be better able to work through my problems. It was the absolutely last thing I wanted to hear. I love my job, I love my students, and I love all the non-religious aspects of my life. I decided to take some of the advice I received on here earlier. I pretended that I was okay with that decision, and I pretended to pray with my husband about it. The next day I went to my coworker, who I have become close to and good friends with, Some online commenters have suggested too close with, and told him what happened. He asked me what my thoughts were about all of it, and I kind of emotionally unloaded on him. I even cried a little, which was a bit embarrassing. He was perfect though. He and I came up with a plan. Knowing I get paid every 2 weeks, after my next paycheck came, he helped me set up a new bank account with direct deposit of my check. He talked to his sister, and her husband are going to let me stay at their house while I save up enough money on my own to afford a temporary place. He helped me talk to the administration at my work about what was going on, and to not let my husband or anyone they didn't know to have access to the building or to my information. He also put me in contact with a divorce lawyer, and I have just begun that process. I've also spent the last few days sneaking out some of my clothes into my classroom, so that when I do finally leave next week, I won't have to have left everything behind. My husband leaves for a work trip on Monday for a day and a half. I'll be leaving him a note and moving out then. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I know I'll have to have absolutely no contact with my family and my friends from back home. I know my husband will be upset and probably even blindsided. I know some people will see this as a cowardly way to go about leaving my husband, and some of you will be disappointed that I'm not making more of an effort to work it out with him. But I really think this is the best for both of us. I'll be working to save up enough money to get a new place to live and to begin therapy as soon as I can. TLDR. Talk to my husband again. He wanted to move us back home to our families and communities, so I decided it was time to leave him. Update 2, September 20, 2022. I did it. I packed up as much of my stuff as I needed and wanted, wrote him a very long note that really detailed all my thoughts and feelings, and explained why I was leaving like I was. And I left. I've been in contact with and consulting a divorce lawyer. I really don't want anything from him other than a divorce and to be left alone. I made my first appointment for therapy, which will start in a couple of weeks. I went and bought a new phone and brought my life to my coworker's sister's house. Her and her husband are lovely and incredibly fun and nice people. They have a really big house and set me up with my own bedroom that has a little living room and bathroom attached. It's cozy. We all had dinner together, and I really felt like I could be myself, whoever I wanted to be around them. I don't know how to describe what I feel. I'm really nervous most of all. A lot could happen when my soon-to-be ex-husband comes home tomorrow. I'm nervous that I'll quickly become a burden on my new roommates, I guess I'll call them. I'm also excited that for once, I feel free. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off of me. As soon as I stepped out the front door, I felt relief. But I also felt sadness for leaving behind a chapter of my life like this. I haven't been able to sleep much tonight in this new place with new noises, a new bed, and maybe some shreds of guilt, but I think once I do finally fall asleep, I might sleep for 2 days. I don't know what will happen next. I know I want to save my money and buy my own car and find my own place to live. But I mostly just want to be free from my old life. Other than that, I just don't know yet. But I genuinely want to thank everyone on here for listening to me, giving me advice and tips, and even being critical of my choices. I never thought my post would get even a fraction of the attention it did, but I'm so glad I made that first one. I don't really know where I'd be right now if I hadn't. Update 3, September 24, 2022. Just checking in with a quick update since a few people have asked for one. If you need the backstory, I've posted a couple other times before today. My husband has not been able to contact me because of my new phone number. My work was able to give me a new email address as well, which he doesn't have. Things were mostly quiet until Friday, when an envelope showed up in my school mailbox with my name on it and no return address. Inside was the letter I had left for him detailing why I was leaving him and why I was going about it the way I was. He had handwritten some things to me at the end. Basically, he said he would respect my wishes not to contact me. He was going to tell everyone back home that I had been tempted by the devil and was abandoning him. It said that he was only ever trying to save his soul and my soul from hell. He wrote that he was sad a little, but that he was mostly disappointed I was walking away from our most sacred bond and from my even more sacred bond with God. He wrote that in God's eyes, we would always be married, and that no legal court or lawyers could put an end to that. He finished that thought by telling me I had better not date, kiss, sleep with, or marry someone else, because then I'd be irredeemably sinning. It closed with God still loves you, I hope you see the error of your ways. I have to be honest, it made me a little bit sad in the moment. I'm trying to be strong and do what I know is best and right for me, but that brought up a lot of feelings of guilt and shame. I was able to talk through some of it with my co-worker as he drove me to his sister's house after work. I start therapy in about a week, so I hope to also work out those feelings then, too. As for how the living arrangements have been, They have been kind of awesome so far. We have dinner together every night and chat and enjoy one another's company. They have a lovely little girl who has taken a liking to me. I offered to pay them rent money and help out around the house when I can. They absolutely refused to take any money from me, but said that I could help out wherever or whenever I thought I needed to. I'm still getting used to trying to be independent and thinking for and of myself first. I have to say, I kind of like it. Even though it's not always the easiest, and I have many moments of doubts, sadness, and loneliness, I really am doing okay. Update 4, January 8, 2023. I don't know if this is the conclusion to everything. I suppose that all depends on how my ex and my family decide to behave moving forward. If you don't know or remember my story, it's in my profile. It's long and tedious lol. Just know that I left my husband, my family, and my religion. I do have an update to where I'm at right now though. I moved out of my coworker's sister's house. I got my own car, my own things, my own apartment. I also started and am still going to therapy. I'm so grateful and thankful to him and his sister. They are truly amazing people. I spent the holidays with all of them, and it was honestly the best holiday I've ever had. Even though I know I'm in a better place physically, mentally, and emotionally, it hasn't all been great and amazing. I've felt tremendously lonely many days and nights. It doesn't make me want to go back to any of it, but it isn't always easy. I tried making some online friends, and it has been hit or miss overall. I think I might be ready to start dating, but I'm not sure if I am or how I'd even go about doing it yet. In the meantime, on Friday, to kick off my new life in the new year, I was given my finalized divorce papers. My husband hasn't tried to contact me since the first week when I left him. I haven't heard anything from more about him, so, in the long run, I know I'm doing and did the right thing and the best thing for me, even though it's been hard and confusing at times. Thanks to everyone on here who gave me support and advice. Many of you are wonderful people. Update 5, April 30th, 2023. I'm not sure if anyone even remembers my posts. They seem like an eternity ago lol. To summarize, I was considering leaving my husband and my church for what I now recognize as being controlling at best and abusive at worst. This community helped me gather and maintain the strength to go through with it. I left him and my family and friends behind. I went no contact with everyone. I filed for divorce, moved, and started my life over. It was so hard. I knew it would be intellectually. I suppose I wasn't really ready for how hard it was going to be. I had help with big things like buying a car, finding an apartment, and moving all my stuff. But the crushing loneliness and temptation to give up and go back was especially trying. I was going to therapy, but I still felt alone and deeply depressed. I'm happy to say that I've worked really hard since I first left. I've gotten my life together in so many ways since, financially and emotionally. I feel so good about myself and my life right now. I'm seeing someone seriously for the first time, my job is fulfilling and amazing, and I've expanded my friend group. So thank you to everyone. I'm not sure I could have done it without you all. And anyone looking for help, advice, or just needing a friendly online stranger, I'm here to pay it forward. Update 6, August 29, 2023. I've posted several times here regarding my now ex-husband and my ties to a very conservative, very strict religious upbringing. I'm happy to report that it's been basically 1 year since I started the process of getting away from both, and oh my goodness, I could not be happier now. I have been happily living on my own, which, admittedly, was not so happy at first. I have a fully furnished apartment, my own car, my own friends, and essentially my own life. I'm even dating someone, casually for now, taking things slowly. And my job is paying for me to start grad school and take classes towards my master's. That's not to say my life is perfect. I do still sometimes miss my family, but I've surrounded myself with so many amazing and supportive people that those moments are short-lived. Thank you to everyone who was so supportive and gave me such amazing advice. My thanks in this post can't possibly express my gratitude. So I just wanted to give everyone who reached out, commented, and otherwise supported me a little thanks and update. I'd also like to pay it forward. If anyone ever needs support or someone to listen to them, please know I'm always here. I'm so glad OP was able to get a support network. So many people are stuck in relationships because they don't have anywhere to go. I am quite surprised that OP's husband has left her alone for the most part. I was expecting one or more of the updates to be about him showing up at her house or something like that. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.